What are the most common symptoms associated with mold toxicity?
That's a really good question. It's very difficult to answer because of our own individual biology. It can look so different, even in family members. Like the parents might have different symptoms than the child. I can tell you a little story
Please.
about my first run-in.
We love stories, yeah.
Mold. So I had been in functional medicine practice for about 4 years. Had 2 boys, 4 and 8. And I was doing great. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. We had moved into this house. And on Monday mornings, I was really having trouble getting out of bed. I was so exhausted. And I noticed my hair was falling out all over the place. My muscles would really cramp up severely, and I'd have a little jumping. It's called fasciculations that you see with things like ALS. And then suddenly, I was noticing that I was getting so weak in my right arm that I could not have held this without holding it with 2 hands and dropping out of my hands. So I was getting really scared thinking I had ALS.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a scary condition.
Mm-hmm, very. And it's definitely one of the harder ones to treat these days. I think in functional medicine, in my field, that we can do so much with so many things. I know the dementia side is really near and dear to your heart, Parkinson's, all these neurological things. We can really move the needle with our patients, but ALS is still one of the really tough ones. So I called up on my friends, my smart functional medicine friends. What do you think's going on with me? I went to the neurologist, all these infectious disease specialists, all these things to try to figure out what was going on. And I was sitting at a table kind of like this with one of my patients who I was working with on her environmental exposures, and she got an intuition that I was being exposed to mold. And she's this petite little woman. She's leaned over the table and she's like, Dr. Shippy, I can tell you're really sick. I thought I had it all together and nobody could tell. I'm coming to your house. What time do you get off work? Because she had a reaction to when she got into mold. Her nervous system would go off and she could tell, especially if there was really bad mold.
Whoa.
So she came to my house, and within 5 minutes she ran out. She was like, I think you have Chitomium and you need to take your kids and get out and don't take anything with you. And I was so scared that I did that. And I had just gone to my first environmental health conference a few months before, and one of the topics was toxic mold, but they didn't really talk very much about how to test for it or how to treat. They just said, hey, this is a health issue. Mm-hmm. So my journey over the next year was really starting to understand how the toxins build up in our bodies and how to help to detox. And what's really great is within a year, I had my strength back in my arm and my hair's grown back. And I started to recognize when my patients were getting exposed. So I could really help my patients and know that even if they had something severe, like thinking that they might have ALS, that if we figured out enough of the details about their bodies, that they could totally heal from it.
That's amazing. And at that point, had you ruled out all of the other potentially bad stuff?
I went to the neurologist and she's like, yeah, you've got something going on. ALS is a diagnosis that kind of happens over time and there's no specific test for it really. We did the EMG where they're looking at the conductivity in my arm and there was no clear diagnosis yet. But I'm so grateful to this patient that she listened to her intuition and she had the courage to say, I want to help you back when she was there to help. When I was supposed to be helping her, which I was. So,
I feel like we're kind of, we're primed in modern society to subvert our intuition in so many regards, but sometimes that's what it takes is like actually listening to our intuition or the intuition of another.
I think it's everything, especially now when we're bombarded with so many different opinions and so many different things for us to consider. And that really gets into one of the areas that I think has gone awry with medicine. I'm so glad that I went to medical school. There are so many things that are instrumental in me helping my patients. But it really lets us down in many ways. And so we really have to listen to our own intuition, regardless of what somebody in authority is telling you to do. You've got to really check in with yourself. Like, I have a patient right now who did the Cologuard test. It's a cancer screening test. And she doesn't want to do a colonoscopy. So the next thing to do to really see, does she have cancer? Because the Cologuard is just a screening. It just says, maybe you have cancer. She really doesn't want to do the procedure. And so I have to really respect her decision. I want to encourage her to do it. I think she needs it. But her body's saying no. And so we're working through that, because even though we do a zillion colonoscopies every day in medicine, there's a risk of side effects. People get perforations, they get bleeding, things happen. Have reactions to anesthesia. That's why you sign an informed consent, so you know that it's not without risk. There's something that's not allowing her to do that, even though I and multiple other doctors have said this is what you need to do.
Well, in that context, wouldn't you say the benefits clearly outweigh the risks?
Yes, and yet I still have to, her intuition is so strong. She feels like she's fine.
Very interesting.
That's actually one of my biggest challenges right now.
I would just get the colonoscopy.
Yes, I would too.
I was uncomfortable, like a stranger sticking a camera up your butt, like.
In fact, I've changed my recommendations that are different than what the standard of care is. The standard of care is, unless you have symptoms or you have a family history, you wait until you're 50 to get a colonoscopy. I've started recommending it at 35. So the last two 35-year-olds that did a colonoscopy had findings. One had such an abnormal polyp that the gastro, when I talked to him, he said if she had waited till she was 50, she would have had cancer.
Wow.
And then the other one already had it's called a neuroendocrine tumor. So those can be really gnarly. It's very different than getting a traditional colon cancer that generally takes a long time to progress. So I guess my lesson in that over this last year with all three of these patients is back to your intuition question. When I had the conversations with the 35-year-olds, their intuition was, yeah, I need to do that. Like, that's a good idea. This 55-year-old who doesn't want to do it, that story will be told in the next few years. Can we get her to a point where her intuition is okay with following the recommendations? I hope so.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I think you have to, like, your intuition is should be one part of your decision-making matrix, right? It's like if I crack open a pint of ice cream and I take a spoonful of it, my intuition is telling me to eat to the bottom of the pint, right? But
I don't know. Is that your intuition?
That's my intuition. But then my intellect, becomes engaged, and it's like, well, if you eat to the bottom of the pint, that's like 700 calories of fat and sugar that you probably don't need. And it's like, and I know that because I know about nutrition,
Yeah.
So
it might be, though, part of your survivor mechanisms kicking in that are just so old, right? Where we didn't have freezers, where we had ice cream. Like if we
didn't have ice cream.
If we came across the berry patch, we needed to eat every one because we were going to be heading into winter and needed to be. So.
No, you're right. I mean, we definitely it's a balance, but I would say, for the most part, people are taught today to not listen to their intuition, listen to the quote unquote experts. And there's definitely a time and a place for experts, but yeah.
I really prefer when I'm partnering with my patients, like, let's have the conversations about this and let's make these decisions together so that the person feels like all their best interests are really factored in. not just, you know, am I protecting myself from the medical legal? Like, I think other doctors are going to fire this patient that I talked about because she's not following the rules, right? And I care about her. I love her enough that I, you know, really want to help her to do the right thing for her body. And so it's a series of conversations.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.